Not long after, Carter returned from wherever he was and had a sad sob story about how he'd seen God on the beach and that God told him to go home and take care of his family. A part of me wanted to believe he was serious. His actions showed otherwise. Miss Carter surprisingly came to see me. It was clear that the only thing she was concerned about was my possibly moving back to North Carolina with her granddaughter. She pulled out all the stops and ended with, "Every marriage has those kinds of bumps in the road. You just have to wait it out." I don't like being told what I have to do. I recall being stunned that Miss Carter implied that Mr. Carter abused her back in the day. And then it made sense. When I first moved in with the Carters, Miss Carter and my sister-in-law Ro warned me that Mr. Carter was especially moody when he got off of work. I watched Miss Carter and Ro scatter when Mr. Carter came through the door every day. So this one time I was downstairs when Mr. Carter came in. He went to the refrigerator and got his daily beer as usual. I stood at the island in the kitchen munching on something. I sat down on the couch and thought to myself, he doesn't seem moody. He looks like he's just having a beer in peace. Miss Carter used her marriage as a shining example. She felt like she won because she waited him out. I told her that she and I were unalike because the first chance I got, I would get even. There'd be no wait. Miss Carter dropped the subject. So there I was, living in an apartment I couldn't afford with a 1.5-year-old baby girl and a newborn baby boy. I somehow convinced the landlord to let me out of the lease. Instead of charging me for breaking the lease, he charged Carter. My babies and I moved into an old studio apartment. It had a bed made in the wall on Ohio Street in Vallejo, California. It turns out it had mice. Even though I was afraid of cats, my logic was that if I got a cat, it would kill the mice. So I got a white cat named Mandy, knowing I was terrified of cats at the time. My logic worked. Mandy loved bringing me dead mice, and I almost had a heart attack every time. One day, the bank called me to alert me that Carter was at the bank with the woman who pretended to be me trying to cash our income tax check. The fool in me let it go. I knew then that I was treading on dangerously thin ice and a step from snapping like a twig. So what did I do? I invited Carter over and ran him a hot bubble bath like he liked and watched him submerge his body in the water and the bubbles. Then I got the boombox and his favorite Too Short tape. I plugged the boombox up and intended to fry his ass. It was as if he could read my mind because he got up from the water and wrapped the towel around himself while looking at me the whole time. I sat fearlessly knowing that if I caught a case behind him that I could live with it. Carter should send me a card every year because if it wasn't for me, he would not be breathing. Slowly but surely, I began to get back on my feet. I got a job as an assistant manager of a store called Tandy Leather Company in Concord, California. Financially, I was barely making ends meet. I ended up getting on food stamps. My mistake was thinking that I could wait to report my income to the Food Stamp Administration. Before I got a chance to report my new income, Carter took it upon himself to do it for me. By then, I had relocated to Indianapolis, Indiana on a job promotion with Tandy Leather. During that time, I received a letter from Marion County Social Services. The letter informed me that there was an overpayment and that I must report to court on a specific date to answer for myself. I was floored. It was my own fault for thinking I could get away with it. I know there's no but even with a job, I was struggling. Carter was an abusive, non-supporting, attempting to starve alcoholic, sorry excuse of a man who refused to buy food, diapers, pay child care, or anything for his children. I was beyond irritated with Carter, especially since he'd attempted to commit fraud by having a woman pose as me at the bank so that he could keep our income tax money and my dumb ass let him get away with it. I waived alimony. I knew enough that if I dealt with Carter's money, I would have to deal with him. Now to find out that he reported me to social services and I had to fly all the way back to California to go before a judge with my children who all had motion sickness on the plane. I don't know who I was more upset with, Carter for breathing or me for not handling my business correctly. I did what I had to do. I went before a judge and had a full-on panic attack when convicted of welfare fraud. I was shaking like a leaf from head to toe. The attorney was concerned and I was just trying to breathe. I didn't have to go to jail. I had to do community service. It was my own fault. I had it coming. And I learned a valuable lesson. You can't cut corners and expect not to deal with consequences, and the good you do for others can come back and slap you in your face. From then on, I saw Carter for precisely who he was, a man who would do anything to get out of supporting his children. Sure, he moved on with his life, remarried, and had a child. Maybe he's not violent anymore. He may be the perfect husband and father for all I know, but that does not negate the monster he was in my life and the monster he is in my dreams. Karma can be a slow bitch. Almost everything and everyone he held dearly is gone. Until the day he dies, he will eat, sleep, drink, and dream the karma he earned from attempting to break my spirit. Akindele. 18 years ago, lost in time. I still find myself reflecting over what's left of the lies you tell. About stories I remember all too well about our demise as I cried and tried to hold false love together. 18 years have passed, and the pain still lasts. From your hand to my face, you my drug laced with abuse. And today it suits you to spin a tell that I remember all too well. 18 years ago, you closed your hand and made a fist. Could not resist drawing my blood that led to floods of tears, caused my worst fear to come true. 'Cause there's a demon inside of you. 18 years ago, you asked why I didn't clean up the blood that you spilled that stemmed from a wound that never did quite heal, because I believed you when you preached about our forever. I never dreamed that you would ever tear away the seams holding my love intact. And the fact that you act like it's all in my mind causes me to find time to put truth in the air. And I dare you to call my bluff. 'Cause I've about had enough of your holier than thou disposition and your new position pretending to be a better man. You better understand I kept the police report that reports the sort of man you secretly are. That I'm by far stronger now, can show you how better than I can tell. Can lift my finger and cast a spell and bring hell to your door is for sure. Let one more word come back to me about how I'm blinded by anger and refuse to see the past the way that it was, and I'll bring more than pain, motherfucker. I'll bring the flood. I divorced you while you sat in the back of the courtroom crying, trying to get out of paying child support. You need to abort this notion that you're better than me. Your punk ass can't rewrite a history that was recorded and a marriage that I aborted. Told me I was the blackest woman you'd ever have. Said you didn't want a dark-skinned child. And here it is 18 years later, and what you got, a little nappy-headed mixed child. Say something. You abandoned your chance to apologize when you filled the air with lies and tried to paint yourself in a better light. Read the police report, nigga. That might clear your head about the night you left me and our unborn son for dead when I was 9 months pregnant, 2 weeks overdue, brokenhearted because of you. Say something, I dare you. And if anyone else wants to chime in and co-sign on your behalf, let me say it now real clear, like, bitch, kiss my ass. We talking about a time before you. I have no need to speak words that are not true. I don't know how they handle beef on the other side of black, but you better act like you know before I go to the airport and get a ticket to come your way, to look you in your face, to see you say some shit that will have your ass missing and me resisting arrest. I guess I really am shitty. Such a pity y'all live on the West Coast in a city that was the bane of my existence, where my resistance to the Carters was futile, and meanwhile I carried on, went through storm after storm after storm that only served to harm my heart, accident my ass. Say what you want, but know that my words are true when I say no good will ever stay with you. I could see you dead if I knew it wouldn't affect me, but you're still around, I see. So you'll die an old man with a knife in your hand, jabbing at wounds you could never understand. How dare you pretend it was all a misunderstanding, me laying on the floor in blood, butt ass naked, and you standing there with your brother holding you back. You better retract the lies you told. Your debt is unsurmountable, and you will be held accountable for the numerous times you tried to break my soul, something that was never yours to control. Accident my ass. No matter how much time passes, the police report clashes with your recollection, and I'm sitting here today correcting you. I commend you for changing your ways, but it does not take back your misdeeds of yesterday. You will still pay. You continue to say Stop bringing up the past. I guess it's easy for you to say that stupid sounding shit considering you were beating my ass.